And we're back with another episode of World 1-1 Podcast. Before we dig in, you can and should find us at all of our all the places that you find all the awesome other podcasts that you listen to, but aren't quite as awesome as this podcast. Be it Good Pods or Podbean or Google Podcasts or Apple Podcasts or YouTube or Spotify or any of those. We're there on all of them. And if we're not on one and you want us there, tell us. I'll fix it. I swear I will. Speaking of where to find us, this is a heads up, and it will probably affect almost none of you unless you listen to us directly from Podbean. We're looking at, come January, we will be changing homes and hosting platforms from Podbean. But when it gets closer and all the details are locked down, we will make sure that you have them all. If you're listening to us anywhere besides Podbean, you shouldn't notice a difference, but it is coming. But there's also other cool stuff that's coming because of that. So keep your ears peeled and your eyes peeled, and we'll keep you informed and keep you updated so you don't miss anything awesome. That said, before we get any further than that, a quick note. Huge shout out and thanks to our sponsor, Imaginary Authors, helping you up your scent game. More about them just before the break. I am, as always, your host, Roll to the Wall. Joining me this week is my partner in crime, Wes Craven Anderson.
Wait, I didn't agree to any crimes.
This whole show is a crime. You agreed when you signed on. Frankly, it's astonishing none of us have been arrested yet.
That's perfectly fair.
I'm waiting any day now. We're just going to be brought up on charges for, egregious publishing. So
one of these days, I'm going to regret not renewing my car tag.
That too. So if you're in the UK and you haven't paid your TV license. So since it's just us chickens today, let's get straight to, oh my God, video games. Wes, what the hell have you been playing?
So lately I've been saying I've been playing a lot of the Yakuza franchise. Decided I'd change it up a little bit and start playing the Like a Dragon franchise.
So you traded some Yakuza for some Yakuza.
Exactly. Like a Dragon Gaiden's finally out. I have been playing that about as nonstop as I could, considering it released on a work day.
Is it living up to your expectations?
Yes.
Is it Yakuza?
It's Yakuza. It's Yakuza and the Dragon Engine, which is the best engine for Yakuza games. It's just flows a lot better. The real-time brawling combat, just a lot better. You can go into buildings without loading screens. Just overall, huge improvement. This one was meant to be a quote-unquote small one by having a reduced main story. There's only there's exactly 5 chapters in the main story. Most of the games will have between 12 and 15. But I swear there's just as much, if not more, side content in this than there are in other Yakuza games out there. So you're going to get your money's worth if you buy this game at launch. I promise you. I feel like a lot of the reviews on it, this is where review deadlines can often be a problem on review scores, because you kind of have to focus more on the main story than the side content when you do that, because you have to get it out by X date. But I've been playing through the side content all this time. I'm on chapter 3. I've got about 22 hours on record for it right now, I think, which, and a lot of people are saying you can beat the main story in 10 if you focus only on that.
And are you focusing?
A little bit. I mean, I'm focusing on the main story when I feel like focusing on the main story.
Fair enough.
Or when I can't do the side content I want without progressing the main story.
Well, that's the compulsion, though. It's like, I'm only doing the main story to get to the side bullshit.
Exactly. I only have one complaint so far about this game versus other Yakuza games, and that is the heat you generate in combat is so slow. It really feels like unless you have Kiryu drunk off his ass you're not going to be doing any heat moves during combat or going into extreme heat.
Feed that boy a Pepper X.
Exactly. There are actually real name brands in there. You can have Kiryu drink Pepsi or Mountain Dew if you want. So,
sponsored by.
exactly.
Oh.
So yeah, that's about what I've been doing.
Okay. All right. So I've actually got a handful. Totally unintentional, but kind of living up to the polygamerous claim from the other week. Let's start with. It is just fresh in my mind. Played the final 8 tracks from the Mario Kart 8 Booster Course Booster Pass DLC.
It's the end of an era. Mario Kart 8 is finally going to be finished, and eventually they'll move on to Mario Kart 9, hopefully.
Yep. 2 years later, the DLC is complete. And I gotta say, normally the one, as always, the Mario Kart Tour tracks, not great. I will say though, the fuck was it? Spain, I think. God, my mind's gone blank. But one of the tour tracks did have a moment in there where I'm like, oh, that's fucking cool. And I think it was Spain. I'm looking now.
To be fair, Mario Kart Tour is just straight up trash. So
it's Madrid. So Madrid Drive had actually a legit kind of cool moment where on the third lap, you actually go driving across a fucking soccer field and you come onto the soccer field through the goal on one side and exit through the goal on the other side. And when you exit through the goal on the other side, you hear the crowd cheering and going wild. I'm like, okay, that's cute. That's clever. We got the last of the Rainbow Roads, which was the Wii Rainbow Road, which is not bad. It's a solid Rainbow Road. The real shocker here is that I've never been a big fan of like the Super Nintendo tracks or the GBA tracks when they get redone in Mario Kart 8 because they still just feel flat and fucking boring.
Yeah, it definitely shows that those games are products of their time. I will say I don't believe there's ever been a bad Mario Kart game. I will say Super Mario Kart and was it Advanced Circuit or Super Circuit for the GBA? I will say those haven't aged well. I won't say they're bad, but I'll say they haven't aged well.
Right. No, they were great for the time, but they show their age. That said, the big winner out of this pack for me was actually Bowser's Castle 3 from Super Nintendo.
Really?
Really liked that one a lot. I'm like, that's the one that I feel compelled to go back and play more of. It was choice through and through. They adapted it well. They got away from the super flat feel of it all. And God, the music is awesome.
I will say the Bowser's Castles have pretty much consistently been my favorite tracks on just about any Mario Kart game. Like everyone points to Rainbow Road as the most iconic. Rainbow Road is just the hardest because it's easiest to fall off on. I would say
Rainbow Road tends to be the most iconic, though. And in all fairness, like Rainbow Road from 64 is an eternal banger.
But I'll say Bowser's Castle will almost consistently be my favorite track in any Mario Kart game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bowser's Castle 3 here is the clear winner of best course from Wave 6. So really, really enjoyed that. The other big thing here too is tons of new characters and shit. Like there's a whole bunch of new characters in the mix and very discreetly hidden away a ton of new Mii costumes.
Oh.
Yeah. Like there's some really just weird, goofy ones, and there's some that are fun, and there's a couple that I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Right.
So not that it makes any difference, but it's there. I'm like, oh, neat.
I remember when I got my Sonic amiibo. It was the very first amiibo I ever bought. I
Mm-hmm.
started going in what I called the furry mobile, which is me costume with the me Sonic costume with the teddy bear vehicle.
So that's a quick overview on the last of the Mario Kart 8 DLC. Also, started poking at Arkanoid Eternal Battle, and I sprung for this one. I just kind of glanced at it and went, "Oh, it's this," and my brain went, "Oh, it's like when the 360 was around and we had like Space Invaders Infinite, EX, DX, Extreme, Forever, whatever the hell it was called. They did a couple like old arcade game remakes like that, and they were really enjoyable. I think Galaga had one too. But anyways, I'm like, oh, it's that, but Arkanoid. Cool. I like Arkanoid. I like Breakout. So I fired it up. No, it is not that. I'm not mad though, because what I got instead was fucking Arkanoid Battle Royale a la Tetris 99, but
Ooh.
better.
Mm.
So here's the kicker. I will say the tragic downside is that, as far as I can tell, nobody's online fucking playing it. But it doesn't matter. They will give you AI players to at least play against. Here's what I really, really liked. One, it's 25 players, but it puts your screen in what it implies essentially is a big line going kind of diagonal with all the other players. And as you're moving up and down in the rankings, you're physically moving up and down that line. So you see like other players' screens moving past you to the left or to the right as you're moving up and down in the ranks. And then every so often it pulls an F0 and says the person in last place, execute. And just keeps going until there's one left. And I like having that movement when your rank changes, because there's a physical notifier that you're adjusting in the ranks, and it helps you visually keep track of it way easier. That aside, you can also pick up like some power-ups and hurl them at the person to your left or to your right to like dick with them. So it tracks. It makes more sense as a battle royale game, and I kind of wish that like Tetris 99 and shit would update to this type of model. That would make me really happy, because this was pretty well fucking done. My only real hiccup is there were a few moments where it felt a little laggy and it fucked with my flow, because it's a game where you really have to keep the flow moving. Um, Past that, I have finally started diving into Imp of the Sun, which is, I feel like I don't remember how long it's been, but I know I've talked about it with somebody when I saw the previews and went, this kind of looks like a mess just in terms of performance. And then I played the demo, and the demo was actually really pretty good. I'm like, why did you use that laggy ass footage for your trailer? Um, it plays pretty smooth. Not real far in. It kind of feels like Ori 2 Light a little bit, just in terms of, I don't even know if I can tell, if I could say what it's in terms, but something that I can't even quite put my finger on makes me go Ori 2 Light. I like the visuals. They're not like the most detailed or stunning, but the art style, the color palette, it all just kind of works for this. It feels a little more, I can only call it like childish, but not in a bad way. More like kid's storybook. Just simple colors, a very pleasant, soothing palette, um, bold, kind of round, bubbly character design. But yeah, it's not bad. The health regen mechanic I kind of like, because you're a little like fire imp born of the sun, and you have a mechanic like with Hollow Knight, where you can spend your magic essence to restore health, but your magic essence doesn't refill unless you're like standing in the light, or close enough to a little fire torch. So it's thematically connected and it makes sense. I'm like, okay, I like this. The skill tree looks pretty basic but serviceable. The platforming and the movement feels a little loose. And I think that's probably what I'm struggling with the most, if I'm being honest, is I just wish it was a little tighter, especially for the times when it wants to throw you into locked in combat arenas with small platforms. And it just makes it feel a little off. But other than that, I'm actually enjoying it. I've dabbled, and I will emphasize dabble here. I've started to dabble with Citizen Sleeper.
I've heard a lot about that one.
I have too. What I didn't hear, and that nobody told me, was that this game is D&D. It is pick a character class, and it's simplified D&D, but it's pick a character class. Your class has these stats. You get a perk here and a debuff here, and here's your special thing, and off you go. And then the whole story, the whole game is basically being told to you by text, which is kind of neat. Like if you're a person who wants to play D&D but you can't get a fucking game together, play some Citizen Sleeper. It'll help scratch that itch.
I've heard,
like, well and truly.
I think I've heard someone say that this game is basically what if Disco Elysium was a roguelike.
Kinda, yeah. I don't know that I'd call it a rogue, but I'm not far enough in to make that judgment yet either.
I've heard. I could be remembering wrong.
This feels more like D&D meets survival.
Right.
Which I suppose is roguish in its own way, but I don't know that makes it inherently a rogue. But I do like the fact too that like it keeps the entire dialogue log, so you can scroll back and read everything to get caught up.
Let's see. Am I remembering?
But that's Citizen Sleeper in a nutshell. At least just the beginning bits. I made the mistake of trying to play it one night before bed, and I was getting too tired to try and keep my eyes open and stay focused on it. So one day when I'm in the right headspace, I will go back to it and be like, all right, now we're doing this. And once I get engrossed, I can power through that shit. But trying to get into it while I'm kind of fading fast was the wrong move. So, also dipped my toes into Risk of Rain Returns. I've not played any of the Risk of Rain games, but I've heard great things. And I saw that Returns had just come out, and it was a kind of an update to the original. And it's tough, but I like it, and I will definitely be playing fucking more of this. This is one where I feel compelled to keep going back and keep getting my ass kicked and keep getting better at it. It's tiny, it's quick, it's slick, and it is merciless. It is merciless. Like it's all about, survive as long as you can, and the longer you survive, the harder it's gonna get. Enjoy.
Now that one, unlike Citizen Sleeper, which I've never played, I am 100% certain is a roguelike. An old roommate of mine was obsessed with Risk of Rain 2. And
2 is apparently drastically different than 1, though.
I do know that because 1 is 2D
side scroll. Yeah.
And 2 was a 3D.
Yep.
So naturally, Risk of Rain 3 is 1D. You can only move forward and just forward.
No, Risk of Rain 3 is actually going to be in 4D, and you're going to travel through time.
Gotcha.
Risk of Rain 4 is going to be 5D, and you will hop dimensions and realities.
Makes sense.
This tracks. Risk of Rain 4 is just going to be like Risk of Rain multiverse. Enjoy.
And that's the point at which the Risk of Rain series finally collapses, if the film industry is any suggestion.
So, and then the big one I have to talk about here, and this will come as no fucking shock, and actually I'm a little shocked that I haven't replayed it more recently than this. But like I said, I've been replaying through Dread, and I finished my replay of Dread. And I have thoughts. I have fresh thoughts. I have things that I've stewed on. I have commentaries, notes, and even complaints. So strap in, bitches, because here we go.
All right.
I believe I mentioned this previously, but I am almost 99% certain that they have patched and updated some of the audio in there. I swear I was hearing things in the audio that weren't there originally. And like nothing bad or anything off-putting, just like little tweaks and quirks. And almost nothing I could really quite point to and go, that. But when I hear it, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that wasn't there before. Just little things. It's small and not super important, but I noticed. I'd be curious to see if anybody could actually confirm whether or not I'm losing my mind there. Number two, and I'm pretty sure Michael would agree with me if he was here. Metroid Dread needs more Murder Beam. The Murder Beam is great, and it was grossly underutilized, and I want more Murder Beam. I know that there have been some mods where people have just turned on the Murder Beam and went, here, play and see how far you can get with just the Murder Beam, which is kind of great. I've seen some of it. It's hilarious. You will inevitably get stuck, though, because it just doesn't work with certain parts of the game, and therefore you can't trigger events to continue progress. Okay. Next one's a solid complaint, but it's not just about Dread, I realize. This is about the fucking series as a whole. No more goddamn flash suits. The flash suits need to stop. And what I'm talking about is this. When you get a new suit or like a new, suit upgrade, you go from like power suit to various suit or various suit to fucking gravity suit or dark suit and light suit and all that shit. I am really, really tired of it being a big, bright flash of light and then suddenly just the new suit is fucking there. Get rid of this shit. It's lazy and I don't like it. I'm tired of it. I want to see a fucking cool scene where the suit becomes the new suit. Like, I don't care if we Tony Stark it and Samus steps onto a platform and like the shit comes up out of the ground and starts, like bolting crap on, or if like the suit just transforms itself. Like you see the screws and the bolts turning and like new fucking metal straps come up and the fucking paint changes colors or what. No more fucking flash suits. I want to see it happen. This has to be a thing in the next game. I'm going to be so pissed if we keep doing flash suits forever. I'm tired. Like, I get why we did it all the way up through Super. I can even justify through Game Boy Advance. Once we hit the GameCube, the flash suits should have gone away. We had way too much opportunity to do some really cool shit, and we didn't. Stop with the fucking flash suits. It's enough.
Yeah. Just to spot you, Larry, I'm going to make a Metroid fan game where the best suit in the game is base red with a golden lightning bolt on the chest. Just to spite you for your hatred of flash suits.
I'm gonna hurt you. All right. Next, I need one more update for Dread. I need them to patch in a commentary track like what Valve does, their game. I want a fucking commentary track from the devs and the director, because there are things that I want to hear their fucking commentary on, namely the story bits. Because don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it, but there are things that by the end of the game are still fucking ambiguous. I would like answers, which brings me to my next point. My opinion on Dread is likely to change depending on what they do in the next game and whether or not they actually pick up and close the threads that they left open in Dread. Because there's too many of them. There are too fucking many of them.
It's kind of like how, I guess it's different mediums, but it definitely applies to me. How my opinion of Across the Spider-Verse got a little lower when they confirmed the delay of Beyond the Spider-Verse, because it ends on a cliffhanger.
That didn't drop it for me because they know where they're going with it. That delay happened for a variety of reasons, independent of what happened in Across.
Oh, I get that, but like it didn't tell a finished story. Like it literally stopped in the middle of something happening. And
yeah,
so,
but they knew that they announced going in that it was happening, though.
Right. I get
that for me is a case of expectation.
Right. But like I was willing to put up with it because I knew
for me it's things like what the hell happened. Mm-hmm.
Right.
But yeah, for me here in Dread, there are things like what happened at the end. Like I have theories and speculations, and Michael and I have talked about it at length. But what happened at the end? Does Samus still have the Metroid DNA? Who was actually the dominant sentience? Was it Quiet Robe? Was it the X-Parasite? I need an answer to that because that affects multiple things in the game. The ships that the fucking Thoha ships or the Mockin ships that disappeared between just before the Ravenbeak fight and the escape scene. I need answers to all this shit. And if those answers don't get answered, I am knocking down Dread for opening those threads, but not closing them. You have one game to resolve these answers. That irritates me. Here's the big one, though. Brace yourself. This isn't a knock. This is my own theory that in another universe, somewhere, where Mercury Steam got to remake Fusion instead of Metroid 2, the Dread story would have been wildly different. Now, hear me out. Mercury Steam originally came to Nintendo and said, we want to remake Metroid Fusion. And Nintendo said, we like you. We don't want you to remake Fusion. We want you to remake Metroid 2. And they did. And as a result, Metroid Dread's story heavily connects back to Metroid 2. But if they had instead gotten to make the Fusion remake they wanted to, the story in Dread would have actually been an almost exclusive Fusion follow-up, and we would have gotten the fugitive Samus story instead. But because they remade Metroid 2, that's where the big story was coming from, because that's what they were just coming off of, not Fusion. And there's Fusion connections, and chronologically it's post-Fusion, but there's a big open-ended piece from Fusion, like the biggest, that got left unattended and should have been the next part of the story and wasn't, because they didn't remake Fusion, they remade Metroid 2, and that's where their heads were. And that's what they knew inside and out, because they had spent years working on it. That's my fucking theory. So, Anyways, I finished playing Metroid Dread again.
Did you now?
Apparently. So,
how was it?
I'm not gonna lie. I actually played it on rookie mode this time, and I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I did. The twin robot fights are still a pain in the dick. I don't like those. I did not like the robot fights. They just irritated me. But other than that, lots of fun.
I've really played games on easier difficulties before. The first time I beat Hi-Fi Rush, I beat it on hard. But partially because you don't get the stacking achievements. I can't remember if that's the proper term for it, but like beating it on hard doesn't also give you the achievement for normal and easy. Right. And partially because I just wanted to like have a brain zone out, can mash X to the beat and still win moment. Yeah. Second playthrough, I did it on easy.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fine. That bugs me. Any game that has like an achievement for you beat this on easy mode, you beat this on normal mode, you beat this on hard. If you just start and play it on hard mode, you should get all the achievements for those.
I agree.
That should just be a given. And anybody that doesn't fucking do that, get your goddamn shit together.
I'm not a huge achievement hunter, so it doesn't bother me that much. But I'd be lying if I said it wasn't something at least worth pointing out.
Yeah, I'm not either, but that's a fucking matter of principle. Like that's just forcing needless replays. So
I can see myself replaying it at least 5 times anyway, so
which is fine, but I'm like, don't force me to play it on easy mode just to close out the achievements. If I've already played it on normal or hard, fuck you.
Right. I get that.
That's dog shit.
Still a great game though. And one of these days it's going to be on my games of the week again. I've just got a big Yakuza palette lined up, and I only have so many hours per week to consume media.
Mm-hmm. Oh God, tell me about it. So, anyways, that's what I've been playing. Oh, okay. So you're going to hear about this more next week and on into the future. I can guarantee it. However, I have to fucking tell this story because this is super fucking cool for me. For almost 20 years, I have kicked myself for not having bought a Game Boy Micro. I want a Game Boy Micro. I've wanted a Game Boy Micro for a long fucking time. Now, back when the Game Boy Micro came out, I had like 3 different fucking versions of the SP, and I was trying to be responsible and go, yeah, we're not going to buy this. I have 3 fucking Game Boys already. Stop it. But the Micro came and went. We've gone through the DS and the 3DS and all of that now. We're, like 20 years down the road. Almost, probably. Anyways. And LeGrew has heard me fucking rant and rave over the fact that I want a Micro, but I cannot bring myself to pay the asking price because they're like $300 fucking bucks now to get your hands on one. It's ridiculous. And when I've got like 7 other ways I can play my Game Boy Advance games, I just can't justify that money. I can't do it. As much as I fucking want it, I can't bring myself to do it. It hurts me. So I have 2 long distance partners. And one of them is like way long distance in North Carolina. And the other day, I was having kind of a foul morning, and I was basically just distracting myself to get into a happy headspace because I was dealing with bullshit at work, and she and I were talking on the phone. And I don't remember how we got there, but we were talking about like Game Boy Advance shit, right? And so part of the conversation we were talking about like modding Game Boy Advances and why they're so popular with the mod community, because they're easy and friendly to work on, and there's a shit ton you can do with them. You can start out with just like simple little quality of life improvements by putting a better screen in, or, you know, setting it up with a rechargeable battery pack for the old wide Game Boy Advances, or, you know, putting a USB-C charging port on it instead of the proprietary one on the SPs, things like that. And over the course of this, I mentioned to her, I'm like, yeah, there's one though that's kind of like my holy grail that I've just never been able to bring myself to drop the money on, which is a micro. And she goes, I've had one of those in my closet for like 15 years. She's like, I got like 4 Game Boy Advances and that one sits in my closet and I never play it. I'm like, you what now? She goes, yeah, I'll FedEx it over to you today. I'm like, say what now? And so it's supposed to be here as of recording tomorrow. At which point I explained to her, I'm like, you need to understand that you know how guys, we have a map for our jeans pocket.
Right.
Right front pocket, keys, bottle of vape juice. Left front pocket, 8-panel red and black dirt bag, earbuds, vape. Back right pocket is wallet. Back left pocket is phone. Pocket watch lighter pocket is Game Boy Micro. It will have an eternal place on the pants pocket map. It will live in that pocket and be on my person at all fucking times. It's not even a question. It just is. So, but she pulled it out, fired it up, charged it up, make sure everything was still working. Says, yep, it's on its way. So I am at long last closing the book on like the big gaping hole in my console collection. And I realized, I was talking with a buddy of mine last night. I'm like, I figured out why it's so fucking much of a big deal to me, because I love handhelds and I love portable gaming. And we've talked before about whether or not we will ever see a dedicated like handheld portable system again. And no, I'm not including the Switch Lite, and this will make sense why. Because if you track the evolution of the handheld gaming system from like the Game Boy, big gray brick, but then we got the Pocket, we shrank it down, we made this more pocket friendly, and then we got the Color, which was still pretty on par with size and form factor. Then we got to the Game Boy Advance, and size-wise, it was about the same. It was just oriented a little different in widescreen instead of, you know, height. But then we almost peaked with the SP, because the SP was the perfect form factor. Like, it was just the right size, had the clamshell, because if I'm going to throw one of these things in my pocket, I don't want the screen getting fucked up by anything else in my pocket. And the SP solved for the equation. Then we got the Micro. And the Micro had no clamshell. But it didn't need one, because you could fit it in the pocket watch pocket all by itself where it's safe. And even if the screen did get fucked up, guess what? You didn't fuck up the screen. You fucked up the faceplate. You can take the faceplate off and replace it. That's not a big fucking deal. I can still get replacement faceplates for a Micro for like $10. That's nothing. Whatever. But then we started going the other way, and we got the PSP, which, don't get me wrong, it's big and it's gorgeous, but fuck, that screen was a magnet for destruction. Nobody's going to put a PSP in their pocket with anything else. You've lost an entire pocket. It doesn't work. The DSs at least had the clamshell still. But then the DS, you know, we went from the brick DS down to the DS Lite. We moved in the right direction. It got smaller. We kept the clamshell. My only complaint there was that the Game Boy Advance cartridges stuck out. So you couldn't leave a GBA game in there. Because that was like the one awesome thing the original DS had going for it. You always could have 2 games perfectly in there. a DS game and a Game Boy Advance game, and it was awesome. But not the end of the fucking world. It was still super fucking pocket friendly. It was the right shape, the contours, everything. Protected the screens with the clamshell. But then they started getting bigger and bigger again. The 3DS, the 3DS XL, and Lord knows, like, I've got a Samus Returns 3DS XL. That's not going in a pocket anywhere where even the outer casing is going to get fucked up, because that's the first-hand market's gone on those, obviously, and now secondhand, you want one of those limited edition ones. That's anywhere from like $300 to $500. Like the Samus Returns 3DSs are one of the most expensive out of all the 3DSs to get your fucking hands on now, because they were so limited print. And I'm like, yeah, no, that doesn't leave the house like fucking ever. That stays safe on the shelf right up there in its protective case unless I'm playing it. That's it. But a micro can live in my pants pocket forever. And I won't ever worry about it. I will always have a Game Boy game to fucking play. It's perfect. The micro was the pinnacle of handheld gaming. And my girlfriend's had one sitting in her closet for 15 years. Didn't bother her none. She was just happy she could make me happy and send it to me. I shit you not. I almost fucking fell out on the floor. I'm like, you what now? And you're gonna, huh? So, fucking unbelievable. I cannot wait to get home from work tomorrow and open up a fucking FedEx package and there's a Game Boy Micro, and I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna play fucking Zero Mission. Because Zero Mission's not on the Switch yet either. Even though I've paid for the goddamn expansion pack subscription thingy. So, but yeah. Anyways, that's enough of that shit. But that was my happy detour. Oh my god, I'm getting a Game Boy Micro. You don't understand how happy this makes me. I've been talking about this for fucking days to people, and they're just like, "That's cool. I don't understand a thing you fucking said." I'm like, "Oh my god." I don't even care. I'm entirely too happy and excited. So
you should be excited though.
I fucking am. And, you don't understand.
And you know what? I think it resulted in possibly the longest Games of the Week segment we've had, possibly ever, at the very least, for a long, long time.
It might have, and it was just the fucking two of us. If the only way this segment was going to get any longer is if Eddie was on again.
Yeah, I don't see that happening anytime soon.
You might be surprised. There might be a hint there. Anyways, so before we get to the break, I want to talk about our awesome sponsor, Imaginary Authors, and in particular, their fragrance blend number 83. Brace yourself, because you are in for an espresso martini inspired fragrance by Absolute and Kahlua, with notes of dark chocolate, sugarcane rum, Arabica coffee, velvety foam, and more. It screams fucking rich decadence. And who doesn't want to smell like rich fucking decadence? Let me tell you, you're going to turn some damn heads when you walk by. Blend number 83 from Imaginary Authors. Link in the show notes. Go check them out and up your scent game. Imaginary Authors. Now let's get straight to the break. And we're back with the third half of the show. This week, we are diving down the warp pipe and taking a look at the opposite of last week's. And this week, we're looking at games that started great, had so much potential, and somewhere just fucking lost it. So let's dive in with. You know what? You weren't here last week. Lagur, what do you got?
My newest one on this game that I played is Atomic Heart, actually. Where it started
that's
off.
That's a shame. I was excited for that.
Started off really, really good. Very BioShocky. Like I was like, I love this. And actually the gameplay is very kind of BioShock. Gameplay is still okay. it just got really boring. And I played for about, I want to say 10 hours or so. And that's a pretty good chunk of time for a game like that, like a shooter kind of mechanic game, to see if you really stuck with it. And I didn't have a problem just putting it down. And just saying, nah, I'm not doing this. It was, I liked, somebody's hit my mailbox. Sorry. My mailbox, this is the thing. My mailbox has got hit like 9 times in the last 2 weeks.
Jesus.
So anyway, yeah, so it started out
World
really
1-1
good.
does not officially condone booby trapping your mailbox.
Yeah.
But if you do, tell us about it.
I, on the other hand, completely condone it.
That anyway, it started out really good, really liked it. I was my wife was actually watching this with me, and then it wasn't that it was weird. I know if you actually see some reaction videos to this, you'll see like, oh, it gets kind of like weird, like sexualization and stuff, and it's like, yeah, it's Eastern European. I kind of get it. Like I get it. It's like very, there's like, it's just the way it is. But it just didn't hold it wasn't enough to hold the attention. The story just wasn't there in substance for me. And I don't know if I would have kept playing it if I would have. I always want to go back to it to see, but I just don't know if I want to do that again, because I would have to like kind of start it over, I think. Because how after you go back to a game and you can't really remember the control scheme or anything like that. So
right. So Michael, do you want to jump in next, or you want me to take the next one?
Whatever.
So I'm going to throw one out here that you probably haven't thought of in a hot minute, and when you hear it, you're going to be like, "No, that game was," and then you're going to think about it and go, "Oh shit, he's right." Prepare yourself. Fucking Kingdom Hearts.
which one?
First one. First one
Okay.
started great. I was having a ball. And I swear, the more I played, I was still excited to see those new worlds and what was next. But just the further I got, the less fun I was fucking having, the more it felt like just repeating the slog over and over again. And then I got to the end and it was a giant fucking boss rush of bullshit. And I just put it down and said, fuck this, I'm done. I just, it wasn't there. Like I was feeling the drop off, but there was just enough to keep me going. But when they hit me with that final round of bullshit, I said, fuck off.
Just when you were a kid? Or like you haven't revisited it?
Oh, God. I was probably 18, 19.
Okay.
So, granted, it had been out for several years when I got around to it, but
Right,
still.
because it was on PS2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So,
I could agree. I agree with you on that, actually.
Mm-hmm. I got another one when we come back around that had the same stopping point, but it was a much sharper drop off. So, Michael, what started so well and just went so wrong?
Prototype.
Ooh.
The first one, huh?
Yeah, Prototype was such a great concept, but the problem is, and this is a problem with a lot of these open world style games like this, is that the missions get very repetitive very fast. And literally it's just like they'll either throw more enemies at you or the enemies have more hit points or something like that. But it's the same thing over and over and over. And I got about halfway through Prototype and I was just like, I just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Which sucks because it was a great concept. So ultimately, I just ended up looking up the story.
Yeah,
Mhm.
my Prototype experience was this. I played it in, I want to say it's 2012 when I played it. I can't remember if that's when it first came out or not, but I don't think it was. I bought it.
You might be in the neighborhood.
I put it on my Xbox 360, playing it. I was in my apartment, and my wife was in the other room, and I got to the very end of I put in the time, and I got to the very end mission, the last mission of the game, which was hard as shit. For some reason, it was really hard for me, and my Xbox 360 red ringed. And then
Ouch.
I never went. I sent it off to get fixed, and because that was the time when they were still letting. They weren't shipping you the coffins anymore, but you had to put it in a box yourself. But they would still fix it.
Mm-hmm.
I shipped it off to be fixed. Like 2 weeks later, got my console back. Never played it again. I said, nope, I'm out of it. I just went to something new.
Can't do it.
So
yeah.
I never actually finished the game.
Yeah.
And,
I just said I didn't even get that far in it. I just got to the point to where, as I said, the missions were same 3 missions over and over and over again.
yeah, like to infiltrate the base.
Yeah.
I remember those missions, and then it was always like trying to be sneaky, and it always would end up just killing everybody.
Yeah.
Like, like, oh yeah, sneak in here. It's like, and all of a sudden, they had the like where guy was starting to notice you or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna
Yep.
kill them all.
Well, I mean, it was
I
a
did
great
like-
game for that
Great
concept.
concept. Yeah, the anti-hero kind of.
Yeah.
Are you really a good person? No, you're not.
I'm really hoping the new Spider-Man takes some of the Venom stuff from like the prototype concept.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, because he is
If done right, yeah.
I'm very interested to see in what happens if we get to see a bonded Miles.
I don't think so. Everything they've shown, it's Parker that gets
It's
the
it
symbiote.
is. Yeah, they've shown so much of that game, which I am actually
I've been
angry
avoiding
about.
it. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
been
but-
avoiding it.
like as soon as I see it, I just stop watching it. So I'm like, but I have seen like how much they're showing of it, like even in just regular trailers.
Hmm.
It's like that's nuts. I know maybe the whole spoiler thing is like just a gamer thing, like we don't like that, but
No,
it seems like
it's
normal people
not.
don't care.
It's most anybody nerdy.
I'm
Yeah.
You get that with a lot of movies and TV shows for like Marvel shit, especially.
For Spider-Man, I'm holding out hope in the concept that what they've because they have shown a lot, and I'm hoping that what they've shown is just the tip of the iceberg. Like there's
Oh,
so much more that it justifies what they've shown.
Right.
Right.
Because like I saw,
You're,
a
you're
video
hoping
of
it's
him-
proportional.
Yeah, I saw a very tiny little snippet of him fighting Lizard, and it looked phenomenal. But it also
Yeah.
looked very, like the way Lizard moved was very God of War Ragnarok.
Mm,
I see.
okay.
Like there was a specific enemy in Ragnarok that reminded me a lot of this Lizard, or vice versa.
Okay.
And it's weird too. Okay.
All right.
Cool.
So I'm gonna drop the next one here. BioShock Infinite. BioShock Infinite lost me at the gauntlet at the end. Like I was having a great time. Oh my god, it started so good. So fucking good. Like coming off the first 2 BioShocks and being launched into this giant fucking flying city thing that was just so bright, so rich, so much color. And then almost immediately being exposed to the insanely gross like level of racism and communism and just everything shoved into this fucking city. And it started so good, and it definitely felt more sloggy as I went along. I hit a point, I was at the end, and there's this fucking, just gauntlet of enemy wave after wave after wave, and just hold out for, X number of waves until the platform lands kind of bullshit. And it got so frustrating, I just stopped. I'm like, you know what? There's probably a really cool ending here. This pissed me off. I don't want to see it. I still have not looked up the ending to Infinite to this day.
Okay.
Not a fucking clue. It just pissed me off so hard right at the end. And again, if they had kept up like the narrative world richness throughout, instead of just letting it fall off, I probably would have been more invested in pushing through and gotten through that end gauntlet. But they just let all the personality that sucked me into this world dry up and wither and die without a fucking nod tip of the hat. So I was so fucking sad that it just, to me, that's how that game ended. That's the end.
That's it.
Just infinite waves of bullshit, and that's the end, and I'm done. That's the canonical ending in my head for all time at this point.
I mean, it's probably the ending of BioShock anyway.
More likely,
unless Judas is, which looks like a BioShock game.
It's basically supposed to be.
Yeah, I think it probably is like this.
Same guy,
spiritual successor. Yeah.
It's this is his new one. So. Yep. But yeah, Michael, what else? Just let you down.
In regards to that, it started out great and ended kind of meh. Breath of the Wild.
Ooh.
Like, Breath of the Wild was a phenomenal game. I loved every minute of it, with the exception of the ending story. Like, that ending story is so fucking forgettable.
Like, now, I don't even know the ending because I still haven't finished the game. I got all the divine beasts. I've got all the shrines. Yep. I have like 500 Karok seeds or whatever.
It'll take you 10 minutes.
I know, that's the whole thing. And I'm just like, because see, for me, when I finish the game, I won't go back to it. So if there's anything else in that game I want to do, I got to finish it. Right. So, and I just never finished it. I bet you I played Breath of the Wild for 250 hours.
Oh, I know I did.
I put 300 hours into Tears of the Kingdom.
And I haven't played Tears yet. I've got it. I got the collector's edition.
Was better on every level.
That's what I hear. So I mean,
like it takes a little bit longer for you to get into the game, but once you really start messing with the building mechanics, it's a phenomenal game, as I said. And the story was so much better. The ending battles were so much more memorable. But like,
I got 10 hours in and put it down.
You need to pick it back up, man. Like, as I said, once you really get into it, like, it's phenomenal. But as I said, I honestly believe that Tears of the Kingdom was an improvement over Breath of the Wild in every way.
I'm not saying it's not, but it's probably going to be just a repeat of SteamWorld for me, where, the second one is better in every way. The first one is what I will replay.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I have so much more fun replaying the first SteamWorld than the second, because I can go in and basically make my own fun. I can decide to start a new game and be like, let's see how deep I can go without having to go back up for light or unload. How far can I push with as little as possible? Or can I get all the goddamn loot without mucking anything up and missing one? So it's simpler, but in that simplicity is infinitely more replayability to me.
I could see that.
But the other thing that now strikes me as real interesting is Breath of the Wild has made the list for last week and this week, which I think means puts it on a bell curve.
Yeah, I can see that. Another one is Immortals, Phoenix Rising, which is basically just a Breath of the Wild clone.
Right. I know you had a lot of fun with that, though.
I had a blast with that game. But by the end of it, like, some of those like gauntlet puzzles were just brutal. And like, I wasn't enjoying it. I was just like, I was literally slogging through just to fucking finish it.
Yeah.
My favorite aspect of that game, more than anything else, though, is every time you get a new weapon, you have the option to pick the look and attach it to any other weapon you're carrying,
Ooh.
along with all your armor and everything like that. It was one of the best little, like, extra little bonus things that I really enjoyed. Like, I was actually sad when I found out they were working on a sequel and they shut it down.
Oh, that's
yes,
a shame.
Ubisoft. Well, Ubisoft is having some issues.
Well, Ubisoft is a shit company, but like as I said, that's the only Ubisoft game I've ever played. And I will admit, I enjoyed the shit out of it, but I felt dirty giving them my money.
Yeah, for anybody that doesn't know and wants to know more about the Ubisoft as a shit company, go back to our episode Blood on Their Hands. That was discussed in depth and rather passionately. So, but yeah. All right. Let's see here. LeGrew, you got another one to add to the pile?
Sure, I'm going to add this one. It might be blasphemous to some people, but Metal Hellsinger. I don't know if you've played that or not, but
I have not, and I want to.
It fell off for me, and I'll tell you why. I really liked it. You know, it's a rhythm game with metal music, and you play basically a demon. You know, it's cool. I like the concept. I like it. It just got real. I mean, it's a rhythm game, but it didn't make it any more interesting as the game went on. So I got about halfway through the game, and it kind of just like was the same thing over and over and over. And I'm like, I'm just not going to do this for another 3 or 4 hours.
There was not enough variation on a theme.
For me, there wasn't. And I think it maybe like if I, chose to get better at it, I would probably like it more. But right. I just didn't. And it's not that I'm not good at rhythm games. It's just that I didn't want to really invest the time to get decent at it. You know.
Yeah. So. Okay, so I got one that Eddie and I both loved, and I still will speak highly of the first half of this game.
Okay.
Fucking Recore.
You know what? That game did do that. That I fell off of that game too, and I bet you I know where you fell off. Did you fall off in that spot where you were going? God, it was like the grid kind of thing, and you were like going into fight. Like it was like battle after battle after battle. It was near the end, I think.
No, I think I got about halfway, and here's what I can tell you. I was really into it when it started. Like I loved the characters, I loved the premise, the gameplay felt like a ton of fucking fun. But then I got about halfway, and in order to progress, you needed to find every fucking orb. And I'm like, shit, we're doing Spyro bullshit again. And then on top of that, I might have pressed further if it was not for the fact that when I first started it, and it wasn't until long after I had stopped that the rest of the game fucking released. Because there's an entire section locked behind a character that was not on the fucking disc when they put it out.
Wow.
Like a whole swath of the game is missing. Like you can see it there.
How did the company justify that?
I don't know. And for years
wasn't
they said...
this a Capcom game?
It was the guy... No, it wasn't. It was the... guy who did Mega Man, right? It was not Mega Man.
Kenji Inafune?
Might have been.
Yes, it's Inafune. And let me look it up though. But and it was like But remember though, that game came out was so awesome because of the hype around it was big.
Yeah, and it looked great. It had so much fucking promise, and it started so fucking well. And then seeing and knowing that there's a whole swath of the game that I want to play that's right over there, and I can't fucking play it. I have no idea when I'll get to fucking play it and see the rest of this game and this missing character and then getting stuck behind a collectathon wall that was just too fucking much, combined with a up till that point overlookable waypoint system that was just janky, never quite worked right.
Right. Yeah, it's not Inafune, it's the other guy. Masahiro Yasuma or whatever.
Okay.
He's the guy who did the Mega Man Legends.
Okay.
Those ones.
Got it.
And yep.
Well, I think
So,
it
yeah,
had some X Retro and 343
It did.
art people
I mean,
too.
in the art was good.
It was.
It just didn't hold. It just didn't hold it.
The art was great. And I'll say this for the art. Like desert sand areas in games are about my least fucking favorite. That whole game was a fucking desert. And I loved playing it until it got bullshit.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that game did. It got bullshit. And it wasn't until years later that last piece of DLC and that character came out. They released it for free, but I'm like, it's been years. Nobody fucking remembers this shit. Good on you for finishing it, but you should have just fucking finished it and then put it out. And I never found out why. I don't think they ever said, as far as I know. But yeah, I was so sad about that. I'm like, you broke my goddamn heart. I loved you and you made me hate you. So, all right. Last one. Michael, what do you got?
Brutal Legend.
Ooh.
Phenomenal game. Every aspect of it was done so well, except for the just shoving in of the real-time strategy thing. It felt so out of place in this game. And by the end of the game, that's all it is real-time strategy garbage. And like, as I said, leading up to it was chef's kiss. Fucking perfect. Like, Jack Black.
Don't ever do that again.
Jack Black at his best. Like, it was awesome. Everything about it was great, except that.
Oh, forgot about that. God.
That's another one that pisses me off that's not been remade for any newer systems, too. I would love to play it again just for the sake of going through it again.
Yeah.
That and Batman.
I don't know. My guess is that's hung up in some sort of copyright issue.
I'm sure. Actually, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, too, with all the music and shit.
Yeah.
Lord knows it took how long to get fucking Scott Pilgrim back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
I gotta have my PS3 repaired so I can play it again.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. All right, so I'm curious because we found it last time. Do we have a consistent thread between our perpetrators here?
No.
Narrative-driven games, I guess. That's about it.
You might be right there. Narrative-heavy games, but then the narrative kind of just dropped off.
The narrative
the
wasn't
gameplay
good
was
enough.
not enough to sustain.
Right.
Okay. Well, there's a lesson learned for anybody working on narrative-driven games. Keep it fucking going all the way through. You can't fucking leave that shit.
And it's a problem with games because it's not a book, right?
No.
Where like you can have boring parts of a book, but you're still reading it and interacting with the book. But in a game, when you're doing a boring thing, it's boring.
Yeah.
In
a book you can skip ahead.
Yeah. And there's really no punishment for it.
No, there's not. I mean, you can skip the part that fucking bores you. You might miss a detail or two, but you can still progress. With a game, most times you are stuck doing whatever like golden path narrative boring grind thing they want you to do, and there is no skipping ahead in most of these.
No.
So I think we found the flaw, gentlemen. So Good on us. Well done. Everybody gets a gold star, a cookie, and a nap.
Don't tease me with a nap. Gonna need one today. Got too
So,
much to do.
all right.
You know what game I expected to have this aspect, this problem, but didn't?
Okay.
Was the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Really?
That reimagining was really well done, though.
It
That's
was.
why.
It was very well done. And there was no real grinding or anything like that necessary through it.
No, you didn't
Okay.
have to.
Well,
Because you
gentlemen,
were thinking like a Final Fantasy.
yeah.
It's Final Fantasy. And there's always that aspect of Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy, though, tends to have enough practice at making sure there's enough to keep you going. Honestly, Final Fantasy almost has the inverse problem where the further they go, the more stuff they stack on when they shouldn't.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different problem conversation. But all right, gentlemen, I think we've got a good place to put a cap on this. So I want to say thank you to my partners in crime, Michael and Josh, for coming and hanging out with me this week. Thank you to everybody that tuned in this week. Thank you to our awesome sponsor, Imaginary Authors. You can and should find us at all the podcast places: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Good Pod, Spotify, wherever the hell you get your podcasts, we're there. And if we're not, let us know. I'll fix it. Other than that, let's wrap this bitch up. Say goodnight, everybody.
Meh.
Yeah, see ya.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to World 1-1 Podcast, powered by the World 1-1 Podcast Network. Press start to engage your mind. Peace.